I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take the roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Amendola,
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Ms. Perry, here. Ms. Glasser. Ms. Damons.
Here.
Mr. Rosario.
Here.
Mr. Lavasser.
Here.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
Solicitor Corbel.
Here.
Engineer Strunk.
Here.
And Public Works Director Ralph Casares.
I'd like to call for the approval of the bill list dated March 26, 2018.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All that opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes dated March 12, 2018. Discussion meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Citizens' comments regarding agenda items only, limited to 3 minutes. Do you have the sign-in sheet? Sorry. Thank you. Would Ms. Angela Polchowski come forward to speak about Crafton Celebrates?
Hello everybody. I'm this year's president of Crafton Celebrates, so just wanted to give everybody an update on how things are going. We are doing rental booths this year for Crafton Celebrates. That's an update that we're having. I know a lot of people are really excited about that. We have a lot of organizations involved. We're doing beer at Crafton Celebrates this year for the first time in a long time, which should definitely bring in more money to help keep things going down there. It'll be in a beer garden just like it was for Booktoberfest. We'll have extra security and things like that. We're working on the parade right now. We're working on the stage entertainment. We have everything just about booked. But we did want to ask for the parade if council members wanted to sit at the parade stand, at the judges booth, at the very end like they would in previous years. We're going to have a setup with chairs and table for judges booth. We're going to have an announcer at the parade this year. This will be right across the street from the park on Steuben Street. And so if council was open to it, we'd really like you guys to come down and be involved. We'll have a sign for you and just bring that community engagement back to make things more exciting, and so people in the community kind of know about what's going on and a little bit more engagement. But we'll get on the agenda in a few weeks from now, just with everything that we're going to need approved. I just wanted to give a really quick update.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Paul Cunningham, do you have anything to discuss on the agenda?
Yep.
Okay. Just announce your name and address.
Paul Cunningham, I live on Belvedere Street.
Okay, very good.
I hear that the council has made a decision to get rid of Ann, the borough manager. I'd be curious as to why. I mean, from everything I've ever gathered, she's done a great job for this borough. So I'm curious as to why, what your motive is for this. Is it personal? What is it?
Mr. Cunningham, I appreciate your question. I'm Steve Corbel, I'm the Borough Solicitor, and that's a personnel issue, and council will not discuss that issue or the reasons therefore in a public setting at this point.
So I mean, basically you have somebody else, a friend of yours or whoever wants that job, right?
Well, wait a minute. That nobody said that. All I'm saying
I'm
is
asking a question
council's
here.
not making.
I'm just asking questions. I want to know why
We don't,
there's backdoor stabbing going on around
If
here.
you look at the agenda, there is a motion to appoint Mr. Kazarowski as the interim borough manager and interim borough secretary tonight. Council's made no other steps to replace Ms. Scott, etc. Again, it's a personnel issues, and we're not going to get into those details here in the public meeting.
So when will those details be in for the public to know?
Perhaps never. It depends on where things go from here. But council's under no obligation to discuss those reasons for personnel decisions in a public session. Under the Sunshine Act, it's all executive session and protected
Okay.
from discussion.
Well, wait, I'll hold my last question, since you're the new counsel for Reuther for the,
Yes,
yeah, I'll hold that one for last, because that's another dumbass thing he did.
okay. Thank you.
All right. I see that there are some late comers to the meeting. So I don't want to step out of order here, but did you have anything to discuss on the agenda? I understand that you're a child, so I don't want to make you wait for the whole meeting.
11 days away,
So could you,
if I'm counting.
since we're doing you the courtesy, and you're on the sheet, could you address council, your name, address, and
Sure.
discuss?
My name is Emily Conley. I reside at 1512 Bar Avenue. This is my mom. She actually owns the house that I live in. So the reason why we came here today is I live next door to a blighted property. It's been a difficult thing. My house is currently for sale. Well, my parents' house is currently for sale. We've had a lot of trouble, we believe, selling our house due to the property beside it. We have contacted the borough manager several times over the past 2 years. We have been told different things about being on a list for properties to be knocked down. We've been told there's not any funding. In the spring and summer, of course, the property gets very overgrown. We were told that somebody would come out and take care of the property because there's a lot of rodents, animals, different things like that. The house is in very poor condition, and it's actually very close to my other neighbor. And they have a small child. I would say Isaac's son's probably about 3. I'm scared for his son and like playing outside because of the way the house is falling apart, especially like when it rains, the runoff from the water. It's just it's been very difficult. And my mom has had some other experiences that she may like to talk about.
Yes, we've lost several offers, people who have refused to even come in and look at the house and specifically said because of the house next door. Other people that were interested in buying it and they needed their parents' help. When they brought the parents, it was the same thing. No, we're not giving you money to live next door to this rundown property.
I believe that somebody did come out and inspect it. I called the health department because I believe it was a health hazard. I believe somebody from Crafton has come out and inspected it, and I guess they determined it was okay to stand as it is and just continue to fall apart, but I was never like notified in any way of like what the outcome of the inspection was.
Excuse me, the borough also told us that they couldn't do anything because they couldn't get in contact with the owner, who still was coming back to get his mail. His mailbox was full of mail, and then he would come and get it, and they said they needed his license plate number. Emily saw him one day and followed him to get his license plate number, which we turned in. But the owner has been in the
Court system, I'll say.
Yes, and I asked the borough afterward why, when he was here for another offense, didn't they approach him about his home? They had him, he was here for another offense, and I don't know what you do with someone that abandons their property, but I would think that there has to be some recourse to try to get some money out of them to pay whatever expenses that the borough would incur.
Yes. All right, well, I believe we heard you loud and clear. The property is on the list. I'm gonna let this lister take a moment to tell you about our action and path moving forward, because we've done some research and we believe that there is gonna be a path forward. So I'm gonna let Mr. Corbel speak for a moment.
So I just reviewed the borough's file, 1508 Borough. We had previously looked at tax issues, et cetera, and I noticed that the property has been condemned by the borough. The next step would be to inspect it to determine if it's a candidate for demolition, and that's different than condemnation. Condemnation just means the building is to be boarded up and secured, but demolition means that the building can be torn down. So we intend to, or my recommendation to council would be to send Mr. Felton, the building inspector, to inspect the property, determine if it's a candidate for demolition. And if it is, we'll send a notice of demolition to the property owners. We do have a post office box address that was provided to the borough by the city of Pittsburgh. At that point, they'll have 20 days to appeal the notice, and if they fail to do so, then the borough has the right to demolish the building. And that's where we are at this point. If council gives me that direction tonight, we can start that process by directing Mr. Felton to conduct the investigation. If it comes back that it's a structure that should be demolished, and based on what you said and some of the photos I've seen, which are a couple years old at this point, it does appear to me that the structure is a definite candidate. I can't say it can be, because you have to have that expertise to make that determination, which I do not have as a lawyer, but the structure is one of the worst that I've seen in my years of doing it.
Well, in all due respect, this is the third time now we put the house up for sale. And our realtors have contacted the borough. What is the holdup, and what am I supposed to do?
I've only been here for 2 months, and I've just been asked by council to review it a month ago. And so I think this council at this point, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, that they are willing to push forward at this point with the property, so long as all the legal boxes can be checked and we can move forward. But I think they're going to be voting or talking about that tonight.
Yeah, and as you saw on the agenda, we have a motion to move forward. So I think council's committed to move forward, and I appreciate that you took the opportunity this evening to illustrate the issue for us. And I know it's emotionally distressing. You're very invested in the property. You have your children, your future children to be concerned about. And Crafton is a very family-oriented place, and we want to help your family, so thank you.
In the meantime, while this process is happening, is there any way to ensure that the property is sort of boarded up and sort of more secure than what it is? Because I mean, there's like the back door swings wide open, there's a lot of things that happen like due to weather purposes, and like it's very dangerous as it is.
So I spoke with the solicitor and the public works director to facilitate securing the location. As we all know, it's not secure. We'll secure it as best as practicable and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Aside from this personal problem, everything else is great.
Yeah, we love Crafton. Just saying.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
All right. As I see, there are no additional citizen comments on the agenda, and there's nobody running late. I'm going to move forward with the acknowledgement of the receipt of written reports for February 2018, Treasurer's Report, Financial Report, Act 511 Report, Trash Collection Report, Property Tax Collection Report, Police Report, the EMS Report, the Ordinance Officer's Report, the Building Inspection Report, Public Works Report, Fire Department Report, and the Library Report. All right.
Mr. President,
Mm-hmm.
in regard to these reports, I was looking at the EMS report, and I was just wondering if there's any information about, I think it's the E0, there was a big drop in compliance, and I'm assuming that there may have been one or more calls that were out of the ordinary that brought the average response time way up. I looked back And this is really the first occurrence. Do you have anybody who has any information about what those calls are?
Yeah, I would look to the mayor and see if Mr. Bloom has any information.
No, occasionally you will get, multiple calls.
Yeah, but I understand that, but the compliance rate on that one thing was down 47%.
We can ask him, Mr. Dudash, if he can give the period of time when you talk about it, that's just for.
That's in just this last month's report, and I think it's the E0. And so it's
Just one E0?
no, what it is the average time for 7 responses.
For E0.
Yeah, for E0, the average response over 7 calls goes like over 7 minutes.
Okay.
And it is the first time I've seen any real drop, so I'm assuming it was an unusual circumstance.
Thank you. All right. If everybody's comfortable moving forward, I'd like to move on to the mayor's report.
I'm going to pass on that right now. I have something for later.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the engineer's report.
Okay. All right, there's 10 items on here. I'm just gonna stick with the ones that there's current activity on, if that's okay, guys.
Okay.
Because there's a lot here. Under the general administrative consent order, Rob and I investigated a residential backup on, sewer backup on Duncan Avenue. We concluded it was a private lateral issue. The main line was clear, so really not an issue at this point. We'll obviously keep our eye. If they have another issue, we'll try to do some more investigative work. But we did deal with that last month. The Fountain Chartier separation, sewer separation grow grant. This is actually going to be going in tomorrow. We've been working on putting the letter of intent together. There's a fair amount that goes into that. We have to continue working on the design of this. By the time the grow grant goes in, at the end of June, we have to be at 60% design. The good thing is, all the numbers are looking really good. I anticipate Crafton getting a pretty substantial grant for this project. So like I said, that's going in. I've coordinated with Rob and Chris now to make sure that it goes in before April 1st, which is the deadline. CCTV quantities are all set. It's actually in the Shake Hall contract, which is out for bid right now. That bid opening is in early April, and we'll get you guys the results. Probably at the April meeting. The O&M defect repairs. This is going out for bid next Friday. We are completed with all of our quantities. That as well as that is also going into the SHACOG contract. And then second part of this, the manhole rehab contractor, we had some issues with them performing the work. A lot of it had to do with weather. We granted them an extension. They're going to come back out when it's a little drier to finish this contract. So if you have any questions, ask me now or you can see me afterwards. The road program is out for bid right now. It was in Friday's paper. It'll be in this coming Friday's paper. Bids will be open on April 10th. And again, we'll get you an update at the April meeting as to how the bids came in. And then the 2017 road program punch list items. Talked to the contractor. As you guys know, it ended late in the season last year, and we didn't want them to go out there when the weather was cold and wet. So they'll be back in May to do this and also pave the Crafton parking lot. So we wanted to wait. And there was something going on in the park in April, and I can't remember what it was, but I talked to him and I said, can you wait till May to come out and do the parking lot? So if you guys can bear with us. I know the parking lot looks like a bomb went off there, but it'll look good come May. The Green Light Go application, we're not going to find out if you got awarded till fall of this year. So probably going to take this off for now, but we'll let you know as soon as we find out about the awards. We anticipate you guys getting something. And last on here is the ADA ramps that were done up in the Union, Lincoln, cross area. Most of them were done in that area. They are complete. There are some punch list items that they have to take care of. Char West asked us to close out the contract, but we have a 2-year 50% maintenance bond that is going to cover any items that they haven't completed at this point. So we'll stay on them once the weather breaks for them to complete those punch list items.
Thank
Sorry
you.
for the long report.
I appreciate it. Maybe it would be possible for you to provide a presentation on the O&M and CCTV and preventive maintenance in the future, maybe sometime in spring or summer.
Sure.
Maybe you could put up something on the screen and we can learn a little more.
We can do that, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Okay, awesome.
All right, moving on to the solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to check back in with council on some of the blighted properties. We already discussed 1508, so I would like council to consider permitting me and Mr. Felton and Mr. Kazarowski to work towards securing and towards demolition of 1508 Bar. That's my recommendation. Does anybody object to that? I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, Phil, but I think at this point, that's the most prudent course of action for that property.
I mean, I'll take the floor to make a motion to do exactly that.
Second.
Okay, so do you want the motion here that we have authorized Gateway Engineers to prepare an estimate for the cost of demolition?
I think Brad was talking about
Okay.
directing.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
directly.
solicitor to direct the solicitor, Mr. Felton, Mr. Kazarowski to go ahead and inspect and secure the property, and then take the necessary steps to begin investigation to determine the feasibility of demolition. If that in turn is the recommendation.
So there's a motion and a second by Ms. Damons.
All in favor? More discussion? Any
Yeah.
discussion? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, so, so I guess we can move forward to discussion.
Yeah, if there's any discussion.
But how long does that take once you start with it? Is there,
Well, if Mr. Felton is able to make a determination in the next week or so, we could issue a notice of demolition almost immediately, and there will be a 20-day appeal period. And so I would suspect within 30 days, we should know whether or not we can move forward with demolition from a legal perspective. Gateway, there is a motion later in the agenda for Gateway to investigate the cost of said demolition, and that'll also be part of the equation that council will have to consider with respect to funding such a demolition. But to answer your question, Ms. Damons, it can go quickly.
Any other comments on the subject?
Yeah, I have a question about so if the property owner does appeal it, what then is the process?
Then the appeal would go to the borough's Board of Appeals, the UCC Board of Appeals, and the borough would have to put on its case as to why the property is ready for demolition, the conditions, etc. And the property owners would have a chance to put their own evidence on to support their contention, which is probably going to be that it's not something that should be demolished at this point in time. And then the board will render a decision, and that decision is appealable to Common Pleas Court downtown. So there is the potential that from a legal perspective, it could be hung up with the Board of Appeals and the courts, and that could take 6 months or more to resolve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Will you be using the PO box that was provided by City of Pittsburgh to contact the person, or is it to be just placed at the house?
Yeah, so from a service perspective, we are permitted to serve the PO box. We will also, my recommendation would be to post the property as well. And that should be sufficient service that is sufficient service under the property maintenance code.
Okay. Moving forward, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The two other properties that were a subject of the memo I provided at the last meeting were 52 Baldwick and 96 Noble. With respect to the Baldwin property, my suggestion there is also to have Mr. Felton review the structural integrity of the property, determine if it's also subject for demolition. It sounds like it's important to do that as quickly as we can, but maybe not quite as important as 1508 Bar. So if council doesn't have an objection to that, there could be a motion on the floor for that. But before we get there, let me just finish about the topic of 96 Noble. That property is, there are a significant amount of back taxes and borough fees. And I talked to Mr. McCabe at Jordan Tax Service, and they are attempting to serve the heirs of the individual that owned the property, and he suggested that we wait until that process is remedied and see if we can work with the heirs once they are identified to perhaps find a potential buyer, etc. So my suggestion on 96 Noble is to wait for a month or two and see what Mr. McCabe is able to determine from the delinquent tax standpoint, and then come back and reconsider if that doesn't work out, what options the borough would have at that point. But 1508 Bar and 52 Baldwin are more pressing at this point, I think. So I would suggest that council make another motion to direct the solicitor, Mr. Felton, and Mr. Kazarowski to work towards determining whether or not 52 Baldwin is a property where notice of demolition could also be issued.
Okay.
Mr. President, can I have the floor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to instruct the Borough Public Works Director, Mr. Kazarowski, Mr. Felton, and Mr. Corbel to go ahead and go through the process for 52 Baldwin as well.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries.
Also, I would request that council hold an executive session to discuss personnel issues at the conclusion of the meeting this evening. There's no action to be taken, so the meeting can adjourn.
Okay. And as we move forward, we should address that we had an executive session at the end of the last meeting.
We did. Council held an executive session at the end of the meeting 2 Mondays ago to discuss personnel issues as well.
Make sure that's in the public record there. All right. So moving on to the business agenda, under finance, we received road fund reimbursement for Ewing Road in the amount of $44,515.34 from American Water for the replacement of the water line and service laterals, milling and paving the roadway. Moving forward under administration.
Can I have a question about that?
Yeah.
Where's the $44,500 going to go?
Returns back to the road fund.
Can we put it in a little fund for maybe some future action on Ewing Road?
I would say this council should take action on Ewing Road this year and work with the Public Works Director. And I wouldn't be opposed to allocating funds to that. I do have concerns with setting up sub-accounts inside the general fund, but I do agree with you, Ewing needs to be addressed. Does anybody else on council have a comment about?
Can it be one way till we, get the funds, or at least open it one way?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to work with Mr. Strunk and Gateway to see if there's an option there, and if we find no acceptable options, we can always reach out to other engineering firms to see if there's a cost-effective way to do a light-duty roadway to facilitate traffic. So I have been out there with the Public Works Director, and he does feel as if there's a solution So we should move on that once we get more information.
I wouldn't ask you to set up a separate account, just earmark it for, improvements on Union Road.
Yeah.
We could do a lot with that.
Yeah, I would be in support of that. That would facilitate,
Do we need a motion to do that?
I would suggest that you have.
yeah, we can have a motion. Would you like to make the motion?
You're better at that.
Okay,
Earmark the 44,500 for Ewing Road for some future.
okay, I mean, that was it, you did it.
All right.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, was there ever a letter saying why it was closed or who closed it?
From my research, it's murky. We do have engineering reports that have concerns, but I believe when we look at the criteria for that roadway, and if we designate traffic weight restrictions, that there may be an option to work with the engineer to open it up. I can't speak to motives from past years. Maybe Mr. Amendola could talk about motives from years bygone.
Be happy to tell you privately, I don't want to embarrass any, or bring up any old skeletons, but I can tell you privately.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, I'm gonna move on to administration. This Wednesday, there will be a LGA intern fair over at CMU Hines College. It's around lunchtime, so we were awarded with Ingram a opportunity to have an intern. It's 50% paid by LGA, 50% paid by Crafton and Ingram. So we have the opportunity to interview and see what candidates are out there. I believe the engineer will be sending somebody out there to take a look and see if there's a good fit. I'm gonna try to, say again?
We know Ryan.
Right.
Turner, yep.
And I believe the council president from Ingram will be going. I'm gonna try to go, but, so that's on the table. So that's good that we were awarded something from LGA. This first time that we applied. I know Mr. Kazarowski is excited to have an intern. Moving.
Mr. President, are you the engineer for Ingram also?
Not me, no. On the gateway is, but I'm not.
The Gateway is?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, we have applied in the past and we were turned down, but why are we joining with Ingram to have one person working both?
So that's something that Ms. Scott had worked out and had made an application for. So that's pretty much the gist of it, that it was a joint application that they had made.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on that.
Mhm.
Was there a certain project though that this intern's gonna be doing?
GIS, data collection, code enforcement,
In both locations?
correct?
This one showed us on the screen.
Yes. So I'm gonna
Okay.
answer your question there. Moving forward, in the bills list, you'll see that the checks have been published for the Seven Springs Conference, April 5th through 7th. Your officials here have the opportunity to attend the Allegheny League of Municipalities Conference. It's an educational conference. So we'll be going out there. Checks can be dropped off to your homes, or it can be picked up at the administrative office, but they'll be authorized in the next couple of weeks. You'll have the opportunity to go up there and learn what's going on. What do we have, 134 municipalities in Allegheny County? So, and there's legislative sessions, people from Harrisburg, our congressional, our U.S. representatives will also be there as well. It's engaging, there's a lot of information. I know Mr. Amendola gone numerous years and has learned a lot and shared that with council. So I invite everybody here to learn as much as you can. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to meet different vendors that provide services to municipalities, different consulting firms. But the biggest thing is learning about what's going on in greater Allegheny County and, you know, to network and make those relationships better, so. With that being said, I'm gonna move on to a motion to ratify the placement of the borough manager on paid administrative leave from March 13th, 2018 through April 9th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, what's that about? What's April the 9th? What, have you all decided you're doing something here? I don't quite understand this.
We can have an executive session to talk about Mr. Amendola.
Yeah, would you like that?
Yeah, let's have an
We're
executive
gonna have an
session to talk
executive
about personnel.
session. So we'll be back after our executive session.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, how are you? Listen.
You know, you mentioned the fire side.
I have black.
Oh, nothing. I just came to give it a
Yeah, my grandson.
Yeah, they.
You're still at the school.
Not here yet.
He's doing good.
2 times a come.
Suicide.
And then he sued Charles.
Yeah, he sued Charles and he lost that.
You're not counting it, you're not putting it anywhere again. It's going going to the borough. Because you don't. Jesus Christ. Here's what we have.
Thank you, everybody, for waiting. We had an executive session and no action has been taken. All right, we got a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amendola,
No.
Mr. Kraus,
In favor, yes.
Ms. Perry, yes. Ms. Lasser, I'm sorry, Ms. Gametz,
Yes.
Mr. Rosario,
Yes.
Mr. Lavasser,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Perry. Moving on, a motion to appoint Robert Kazarowski as interim borough manager and borough secretary.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Yes, why is secretary, why is that?
Go ahead.
I'll just address it. This is to make Mr. Kazarowski interim manager and interim secretary, because we'll need somebody to sign as a secretary on certain documents, et cetera, and I wanted to make sure that we wouldn't be hamstrung in fulfilling official duties in this transition.
Thank you.
Yes,
That was the official title of the former manager as well?
that's my understanding, yeah.
Thank you. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to planning and zoning. Is it appropriate to have this motion, or should we wait?
Yes, no, it's appropriate.
All right. Motion to authorize Gateway Engineers to prepare an estimate for the cost of demolition of 1508 Bar Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this gonna need to like hinder at all what we have to do for the other stuff too, or no? This is gonna,
It shouldn't.
okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Perry, would you want to discuss the library?
I would like to make a motion for the council appointees to Crafton Library Board of Directors to present a quarterly update to council during one of our monthly discussion meetings, and also to request that financials be added to the library director's monthly report.
So moved.
For your second, actually.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, wouldn't that be the job of the executive director when gets appointed to do that?
No, we have two appointees on their board.
Yes.
So that's our charge to them. That's why we have people on the board now.
Well, I would think that that would be the executive director's job, to come up with this expense report, or whatever it is.
Yeah, they do.
Monthly, we should have.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually let Ms. Perry.
Yeah, we have a library director's report, and all I'm asking in the motion is that their monthly financials be included. They get financials monthly, it's just a matter of adding it to what they send to the borough.
Great idea. I think it's a great idea. But I don't quite understand why you're putting it on the council's appointees. You're adding.
I'm not asking
You
them
seem
to
to
do
be
the
adding another-
financials.
You seem to be adding another layer.
No,
Process.
Can I interject?
Okay.
I think what she's saying, we don't have the authority to direct the director of the library to do anything, but we do have the authority to tell our appointees what we want and for them to bring back. Because that's that layer that we installed that we did not have before. We did not have that conduit to the board before. So now
Okay.
we're trying to utilize those assets.
So then, should the motion be changed to read that the appointees would direct the executive director to do this monthly, these financials that we want to see? Because I want to see them. I mean, I'm all for that. I think that's awesome. But
Well,
it seems the way it's presented here, that you're putting a job on the appointees as opposed to having them say to their executive director, give me these numbers every month so I can report back to council.
Yeah, I understand on the wording. I believe when you look at it, council appointees to the Crafton Library Board of Directors will present a quarterly update to the council during the monthly discussion meeting. Council will request the financials be added to the library's director's monthly report. So our designees don't have to do the work. They can direct the board,
Executive
director to do that. But we don't have, and that's where I sort of agree, council will request that financials be added to the library director's monthly report. So
It's just like
we're telling our appointees, this is what we want.
Yeah.
It's up to them to figure out how they get that done.
And of course, they're gonna have to present it to their board.
Yeah.
And their board would approve it.
Yeah.
But we're just repeating, in that one motion, we're just repeating the same thing over, you know.
Okay.
Again.
We can tune up the language here.
Yeah, I think,
So,
I just have a question really quick. So in this motion, the way it's written now, without changing it, basically, I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but, so in theory, it's like, they sit on a library board, they get a report, and the report says, X, Y, or Z, and all they're gonna do is just take that report and bring it here and read it in front of us, essentially.
I would disagree with that.
Okay.
Basically.
Yes, it does get tuned up.
Okay, so basically, what I'm proposing here is that the financials have little to nothing to do necessarily with the quarterly update. What I'm looking for is for every other organization that this council has representation on, it is a representative from council. And then that representative usually presents an update on what's going on within that organization. And since this council has elected to appoint non-council members as their representatives to the library board, we don't have a way to close that circuit and get an update about overall what is going on at the library. So all I'm asking is that one or both of our appointees come to council on a quarterly basis to just give us
So what,
more of an update about what's going on at the library.
Okay,
so to interrupt you,
Can we move this motion to be amended then?
Well, right, I was gonna say, let's discuss wordsmithing this, so we can oppose this and move on to the new motion. So let's discuss that right now. All right, so,
I mean, the way she worded it sounded pretty good.
all right, so let's,
I have a quick question
Go
on
ahead.
that. I was under the impression though, that when we interviewed everyone though, that that they will be reporting to us though, so I don't know what we can motion, tell them to do something that they already know they have to do.
because we didn't set any schedule or any criteria for them, so now we have to do that, we have to provide the guidance. There's no guidance installed.
Okay.
So that's what I think Ms. Perry's attempting to do. So let's take an opportunity here to let's word this correctly. So can we agree on some language?
Unless someone wants to propose something else, I'm good with this language, and my
Well,
motion stands.
Brad, did you have anything to make it more
Can
efficient?
we can we strike the language that council will request that financials be added to the library director's monthly report and just pare down the motion to read the council appointees to the Crafton Library Board of Directors will present a quarterly update to council during the monthly discussion meeting. And then, in theory, they come out here, we ask them whatever it is we wanted to ask them, which would include financial data or any other things that we, so.
So you just want to strike the last sentence?
I would move to amend the motion by striking the last sentence, yes.
I have a problem with that too, though, because if you're trying to do that, then we'll never know about the finances until the quarterly meeting.
Yeah, exactly, okay.
So,
I will move to.
Well, hold on, the solicitor wants to chime in.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor, we're in discussion. If you are attempting to amend the motion amendment has to be agreed to by the motion maker and the seconder. Otherwise, the initial motion should be voted on, and another motion can be made if it fails.
So you have to vote on the first motion.
Right.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So,
So you
Brad,
made an amendment.
so Colette, can you agree to the amendment or no?
No, I specifically said that I do not, that this stands, and I want this motion as it is written to be voted on.
As I understand the motion, Ms. Perry is seeking two items. One, to direct the borough's appointees to the library board to make a quarterly report to council at a discussion meeting. It doesn't have to be financially related at all. Secondarily, she is also requesting that a communication be sent from council to the library to provide financials in the monthly library director's report. Is that correct, Ms. Perry?
That is correct.
Okay,
So-
so that's what's on the floor.
So, Ms. Perry, I'd like to amend the language to say, council requests that council's appointees shall request that financials be added to the library director's monthly report.
That I believe.
Okay,
Does the seconder agree?
Yes.
so council shall request that the library board appointees request that financials be added to the library director's monthly report. Okay? It's,
Yeah, it sounds much better, I mean, you know.
Okay.
For sure, there were two different things there, and they were both the same thing.
all right. All in favor of the current motion,
Of the amended motion or
The
the?
amended motion.
the amended motion,
Aye.
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 all that oppose? All right, motion carries. All right, great, progress. All right, move,
Who writes motions, like, we want to get a motion on the agenda, who does that, who writes that?
you can
write it
take
yourself.
a chance at
You
making a
just go ahead
motion.
and write it
Yeah.
and send it in, and it's on the agenda.
Yes, that's how it works. Make some motions.
Yeah, I will.
Good, great. That's what we're here for. All right, so moving on to the,
Fire everybody.
Watch out.
hey, all right, moving on to discussion item, administration. Just combining the email platform among council members, administration, and police department. So there's conversation that I've been trying to facilitate with management. Reach out to the police chief and the administrative officer downstairs to talk about what they need. It's very clear that the police department needs to maintain their,
That was what I was gonna discuss
Okay.
with you.
okay,
The,
yeah, I'll let you, yeah, you can
okay.
interject.
The CraftonPolice.org, which was established, geez, when I was still working, I helped set that up. That domain has been used for all these years, and there are so many different, here's a list from the chief,
Mhm.
different organizations within the state, DA, and that email and have contact with CraftonPolice.org. That needs to stay. That domain needs to stay, that none of this, because we'll lose contact and you know what happens.
It's Crafton Police.
.org.
Right, okay.
.org, and it's been that way since it was established. So it's imperative that regardless of what council does for the administration and the council members is fine, but I'm requesting that the CraftonPolice.org domain remain as it is and not changed for lots of reasons.
Can I speak to that?
Yep.
Essentially, the platform on which the recommendation has nothing to do with the URL, and all of the URLs will stay the same.
Well, except, well, I'll take
Okay,
issue with that. The
okay,
idea is to get Crafton administration, like Crafton Borough, let's say council in Crafton Borough, like the staff,
mm-hmm,
using the same domain, but we don't want to interfere with what the police have it online.
okay.
So that's an idea, but we need to understand from our vendor what the logistics are to make sure that we don't impair anything the police department does, because from hour for hour, the people that use the email system and communication system most are our first responders, so we can't impair what they're doing.
But it's my understanding that you were looking for software
Yeah,
uniformity.
we're trying to make sure that Crafton Council, Crafton Administration can share Outlook calendars. That's what it really boils down to, so we can be on a unified calendar. Like you
And
see.
we can do that without changing any of the URLs we're using.
Right, correct. But it was a topic for discussion. Does Crafton Council want to adopt what Crafton's administration currently has, which is craftonborough.com, I believe? So that's part of the conversation. So I don't think there's any action, it's just discussion to make sure that everybody understands that I've been having conversations with the vendor to figure out what that would cost us to proceed with either an enterprise or business level Office 365. So that was my purpose of calling down to the police. I want to make sure that the police either have the same level of support or greater support for what they need to do.
Mr. President, as far as the administration of this would go, I mean, I'm hearing the mayor loud and clear, and I would suggest that we should probably do nothing to touch anything the police might use or need, for fear of, even if we just ported over their data and put it somewhere where.
Their data is gonna stay, from what I understand from the consultant, their data stays where it is. It's Crafton Council and Crafton Administration.
Great.
That
I have
would be
no,
up to
I have
you.
no need to do anything with the police, especially if it requires any kind of, IT people to do anything, because I've been on that other side of things when things go down and it's not pretty, so.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
So that's, I just want to make sure everybody understands that I've been reaching out, looking for quotes from DEP Technologies, which is our technology vendor. And he's been doing research and communicating with Rob. and gave us a list. So everybody in the police force has their email, public works employees don't have email addresses, administration has email addresses. So we really don't have that many people outside of council and administration and police that have email addresses. So that comes into the conversation because as we know, things have moved to a software as a service environment, and that means that it's a monthly cost versus buying standalone licensing. So instead of paying a one-time fee and then having to upgrade, given a 12, 18-month period, you're paying a monthly fee. So the fee schedule is different. So that's why it's important to understand what our head count is and what that roster is and what their needs are before Crafton Council considers that, because we have to make sure that stay within our means there, so and not disrupt the services that we have. So I'm going to move on to Public Works. There's a petition that was brought to Mr. Kazarowski from community members, petition to rename Alley U to Jesse Newmer Way as presented by residents of Crafton. There are numerous signatures. I think it's something that we can take into consideration. I wouldn't urge any action at this point, but I think it's been duly received and noted in the record that that request has been made, and if there's anybody that would like to speak to that further, they can come to council and talk more and make the case. So that's that. Community announcements. We have the Easter egg hunt Saturday, March 31st, 2018 at Crafton Park, beginning promptly at 2 p.m. with mini golf to follow until 3:30. There's also the shred event Saturday, April 14th, 2018, 9 a.m. to noon, sponsored by State Representative Dan Deasy and State Senator Wayne Fontana. Senior dinner, I believe we just had one on Saturday, and I know there's members of the audience that attended that as well. The next one's April 21st, 2018. The doors open at 5 p.m. The Crafton Volunteer Fire Department has their Night at the Races event Saturday, April 21st, 2018, 6 p.m. It's $20 per person or $35 per couple plus the cost of a horse. So I was going to ask if Mary, if you could elaborate a little more. It sounds like it's an exciting event.
It's been a good event, gets a lot of the community to come out. Horses are optional, the way this was
Can I
written.
bring my own horse?
You can bring your own horse.
BYOH.
But there's raffles and the horse races. This is all raised additional funds. We've committed to purchase a mini pumper to help take the stress off of the borough's equipment, and a smaller pumper they can use, a two-man operation. Get into alleys where with damaged vehicles, damaged borough vehicles, trying to get in some of these smaller places. So the fire department's between the night at the races and the annual mail drive that'll start, you'll start getting your flyers on April, first part of April. The money used is going to help to offset the cost of that new vehicle, which we should be getting in September, I believe the chief told me. Crafton Rotary, different organizations provide items that we raffle off, grills, shirts, there's baskets and stuff like that. So,
And doesn't one of your members of the fire department who's here in the room have some cool prizes that he's donating to?
I'm sorry?
Isn't a member of the fire department here that is going to be donating some neat prizes as well?
Yeah, he's already done that.
Yeah, he's already done that.
He's already done that.
I heard about that. I heard
Yeah.
that's pretty
And
pretty
there's,
cool.
we're looking to see if Sid the Kid will give us an autographed shirt that we can raffle off. The dinner's catered by Jim Crispin. He makes an excellent meal. It's great food. And for $20, you get a whole evening out. And dinner, there's beer, bring your own mixers and stuff. So, if you want to try something else. And I'll be back in the corner selling raffle tickets. All night.
The same is the
Thank you, Mayor.
senior dinner, so there's gonna be, parking's gonna be, I don't know.
So cleanup day is Saturday, April 28th, 2018, 9 a.m. to noon.
Senior
I really
dinner,
encourage
April.
everybody to come out and take advantage of this opportunity. Waste Management brings in the dumpsters, and, you know, you can bring your permitted waste as per the website, but you're not gonna bring tires or refrigerators or anything outrageous.
We bring TVs.
No electronics. There are other waste management programs for that. Chemicals and tires and TVs can be managed through Waste Management, and we pay additional fees in addition to our basic service. So we have an enhanced service with Waste Management. So if you have chemicals, or you have something, as we call them in my business, methylethyl death, you've got some things in your basement, you don't know what they are, and they're unlabeled, call Waste Management, they'll send you over the proper bag, and they will pick that up. So please take advantage of that. And again, electronics, please don't put them on your curb, the old TVs, don't leave them on your curb for months. You know, people just come around and cut cord and leave you with a television set.
Yeah, I can tell you that I had a 55-inch screen, and all I did was call them up. They told me the day they could come and get it, and they didn't charge me because I've never used a service like that before. But they took it, and it was no problem.
You know, it was negotiated in your fees. So I do urge everybody to take advantage of that, and if you see that your neighbors put a TV out on the curb, it's not gonna get picked up. So please tell them to call the number and have it picked up by Waste Management. And then moving forward to Jordan Tax Service. So we have our county and our municipal taxes due here in the next 90 days. So April 26th for our real estate tax collection for the Borough of Crafton, and that includes your road tax as well. April 26th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., April 30th, 9 a.m. to noon. If you miss that opportunity to pay them in person, you can pay online. There's an additional fee for that. And beyond that, you can go visit Jordan at their office. The address is on the website. I would take advantage of coming to the council, to the borough building to pay your bill if you can't pay online. Or mail it in, you can mail it in as well. But if you want to make sure it's stamped and it's paid, please take advantage of that. Moving on to additional citizen comments. Are there any additional citizen comments?
I just have one quick question. For that Easter egg hunt, do you have to sign up for that, or do you just show up
Sure.
for the Easter egg hunt? You just show up?
Just show up.
There's no signing up for it?
Not to my knowledge, I may be wrong.
It's for kids now, folks.
She asked me.
So, are there any additional citizen comments this evening? Yep.
I just wanted to add one thing to the community events. I'm starting up the poetry series down at the library.
Could you,
That's Steve Technowski, 1753 Bar Avenue. So I'm adding, there's gonna be 3 poetry, another series of poetry readings. And I have like, the poets that are coming next month are really well educated women, very well established poets. So I'm working really hard to bring a nice level of arts to Crafton through these readings. So there's little mini flyers over there, and they're gonna put it up at the, down at the library. Something completely unrelated, the curbs at Sterrett Street and Bar are not ramped. And it generally hasn't been a huge issue, except for lately I've seen 3 completely different individuals on motorized wheelchairs that are driving up Sterrett Street. They use the street because they can't use the sidewalks at all. Because it's not, like Sterrett and Bar are not curbed at all. And even if they manage to get up on the curb, the alley down by where Nina's at is not ramped either. So even if they manage to get up on the sidewalk, there's no negotiating it anyway. So they literally, I see them come down where it turns into Sterrett, and they use Sterrett Street, and they just drive up and down Sterrett, and then they make a right and they drive right up Bar. Because there's just no way for them to utilize the sidewalk at all.
And they're coming from.
They come either way, they come both ways. It caught my attention because I thought it was just one person, and I've seen it on my video cameras, because I have cameras on the house. And now I've noticed there's 3 different, like, individuals that are using the street. And it's like didn't really like come to my attention too much until I just started the frequency increase. So I normally wouldn't like so much moan about it, but I did complain about it multiple times to Ann, and all I got back was, we don't put ADA ramps in unless there's a road project. And I'm like, well, I understand that, but there's people that literally are riding on handicap wheelchairs in the street because they can't use the sidewalk. So something needs to happen, and it hasn't been ramped. I don't know if that's part of the funds. That was part of the discussion before, if there's funding for that, but I'm just trying to bring it to your attention. It needs to be done. Like, those curves need to be ramped.
Well, I believe that the engineer, the manager, and myself are going to do a drive through a bar and stare it and take a look at what you brought up. I read your emails. I understand where you're coming from, and we definitely need to understand that we have the ADA program. We get block grant money for that, correct? And it doesn't have to be with a road program. It's best to do it with the road program.
Okay.
So we'll take a look. We're looking at our capital projects program. As you hear, we have a 5-year program. But that corridor is part of that gateways initiative, you know, our entrances to the community. So that's something that council and management is going to be taking a look with the engineer. So thank you for
Yeah, I wouldn't bring it up
bringing
too
that
much if I didn't see that, like, right this moment, there's a need. So, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. I'm gonna move for adjournment.
Second, or so moved.
Yeah, we can just move for adjournment. So if there's nothing else to say, that we've adjourned. Thank you.